Well, here we are, end of the school year, end of the athletic year. Just me and you, Coach, today. No guest. We're going to get into the year in review, the look ahead. And do you have enough to talk about without Gatsby?
Yes, we'll be fine. I think there's plenty to talk about.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I know you occasionally don't like to talk.
Yeah. Hey, listen, you're
the quiet guy.
You drag it out of me.
You're the
just
quiet
drag
guy.
it out of me all the time.
All right, first things first.
Okay.
Any big news coming out of last week's Southland Conference meetings?
Not a ton. I mean, we did talk about basketball scheduling. How can we, get better officials? Do we really get off of Saturdays and Thursdays and things like that? So there's a lot of things out there. I think that one thing that was...
Why don't you pay them a little more?
Hey, listen. I said that, honestly. I said, I personally like doubleheaders. When I was in the OVC, we did it. If you want better officials, just pay. And I said, at the end of the day, at some point in time, we have to say, this is what we want to be, and not try to cut our way to success and actually pay the money. I'm kind of a minority in that room. So there's been a lot of things talked about. Maybe women playing Thursday by themselves and doubleheader Saturday and men playing by themselves on Monday. There's all kinds of talk about that. We did talk about the TV contract that's coming up in 24. There's a lot of things that need to be negotiated in that. In my opinion, I was very, very vocal in that.
No, you?
Well, because, look, I mean, to me, I think we have to figure out how to be on linear ESPN.
As often as possible.
As many times as possible. Kind of like the Sun Belt did and continues to do with football.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be a random Wednesday night that you're playing a football game.
Yeah.
Well, there's going to be some people, the traditionalists out there, that wouldn't like that. But at the end of the day, we have to get on linear ESPN so that we can have a contract that pays us to be there.
A product. You have to deliver a product.
Yes. And so I'm a big proponent in playing different games on different nights if we can get on linear ESPN, and then especially for men's basketball and football.
Is there anybody else for an FCS group to get on? I mean, there is CBS Sports Network. There is Fox Sports Network. There's some of the smaller ones that have cut deals with smaller, big conferences.
Right.
Is there any way to get on those?
Well, I mean, everything is on the table now because our TV contract comes up, and like I said in the meeting, this is a time where we need to be very strategic. We need to truly understand where we're trying to go and then work backwards. And if ESPN fits that model and can do that, that's great. If it's CBS Sports, if it's Fox Sports Southwest, whatever it is, I think we have to be open to anyone who wants to come to the table. But again, just like I've tried to make all my decisions for the department is to try to work backwards. Like, think about where do you want to be, and then who can facilitate you helping to get there.
Have you outgrown the Southland Conference in investment and thought process of the future? Are you on a different kind of avenue than they are because you want to move up? Is there a group in the room that wants to come with you? What is the room like?
It's a very good question.
Politically speaking.
The room it's interesting. I think that you have some people who are very progressive, and then I think that there's some people in the room that are okay with status quo, and let's just continue to do what we do and get a little bit better at what we do. But I don't think it's anything. I don't think the divide is any different than any other conference, right? You have, I think in most conferences, you probably have a group of people who are very proactive and want to push the envelope. Obviously, I'm that person, and there's a group of us that want to do that, and so we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, every school has a vote, and everyone has a voice, and but for me, I just want to. All I'm trying to do is position us to be the most competitive program in this league that we possibly can, and to push the envelope. I just think we have to think outside the box. if I've said this probably 3 times in the meetings, if we continue to do what we've always done, we're going to get what we've always had. If we're all okay with that, then we'll just keep doing what we're doing. I'm personally not. I think we can. I think we have a great commissioner who's very proactive. I think at the end of the day, you have to spend money, and you have to. And I understand.
You have to spend it wisely, but yeah, you have to spend
yes,
it.
and I understand there's a lot of there's always restrictions, and every school has them. We have them, but I just think that you have to find a way through fundraising, through other things, to continue to push the envelope, or you end up getting left behind.
And that's the fear, is that the league will get left behind when whatever settles.
Sure.
And who knows when that will be, but it could be this summer. We've barely touched on 1 or 2 subjects here in the first 6 minutes. When we come back, we're going to talk about expansion, where the league's going, and where McNeese is going to lead them after this on Poke Nation. Jim Gazzolo back with Heath Schroyer on Poke Nation, special edition, end of the year. Sum up the year in 4 or 5 words if you can. I know you can't, but sum it up as quickly as you can.
4 or 5 words, that's really hard for me.
Yes, it is. Gatsby.
Progress. We've made some progress. I think we've made some significant strategic changes within the department. I think the best is yet to come. I kind of sum it up in those 3 years. There has been progress. I think we've made some significant changes. I think we've added some things in the department, and I think our future right now for the next 3 to 5 years is, I think we're in a really good position.
I was on the radio this morning. I actually quoted Winston Churchill when somebody asked me about McNeese this year.
Okay.
I said it was not the end. It's not even the beginning of the end, but it appears to me to be the end of the beginning of the old days.
100%. I agree with that. I just don't think you can continue, and I've pushed the envelope here since I've had the job.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, whenever there's change, there's a contingent out there that is reluctant to change. That's okay. I completely understand. But the world is going to continue to evolve. College athletics is changing so fast that if we're not willing to change and we're not willing to be proactive, we're going to get left behind. And I just don't want to do that. I will not do that.
We've seen a lot of little things this year that showed some of the problems that exist in your league, especially in baseball and softball, where McNeese at the end of the year were playing non-conference games that didn't matter when the conference was being decided. With that in mind, and you've talked a lot about the problems with scheduling, how important is it for the rest of the league to understand it's imperative to get 2 new teams in here at least to play football, to make those decisions quick, and to give them something to offer so that they want to come here just to fulfill your scheduling problems?
I mean, Jim, I think that, expansion is probably the biggest thing for our league. That and TV. I think those are the 2. If you had to cut it all out, all the other nonsense, I mean, and not saying it's nonsense, but it really comes down to, from the big picture items, is what are we going to do from expansion, and then what are we going to do with TV? I think that, when you go back to when the Texas schools left, the biggest reason they left is the reluctance of the rest of our league to be able to join an ESPN. Having to get ESPN Plus and having to go, and they just got so frustrated with so many of the members' reluctance to change. That was the divide, and that's why they all left. I think that right now we have to, and we've made strides in those areas for sure as a league. We have to continue to make those strides, and I think expansion is a huge deal. We really need. I mean, we need a couple more teams.
Especially football-wise.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you start looking at who you can play and who's legitimately you're going to play. Is you're going to end up playing the SWAC a lot. You're going to end up playing maybe the former WAC, or maybe the former leagues that are WAC teams now. But there's not going to be that consistent rotation to where there's some new blood coming in. Right. It's a tough process because of that. All right, my next question for you, and I've got a bunch of them for you, so just so you know. My next question for you was, after having all the events here this year, has there been talk about I know you've rebranded the league, you've done some things, but really making an effort to promote the league in certain towns, because one of the problems people had coming here was they'd watch basketball maybe, but they didn't know who anybody was besides McNeese. There was no promotion of the league. There's no promotion of, how do you get that?
It's a great question. I think our league has to do a better job of marketing itself. I think our league, but I also think that, you look at the league as, obviously, the Southland, and we went through a rebranding, which I think helps us. But I think it's up to each institution and the surrounding areas to promote the league as well. I mean, you just can't have, one person or two people in the league office running around to all the teams within, the league trying to promote the league. It's an act in futility. I think a lot of that has to come back to the institutions promoting the league as well. We have a great partnership with the league. I would like that kind of partnership with other teams in our league so that we can really enhance our league.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying is I don't like we were here all weekend for the baseball,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and then we had softball, and there's billboards around.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see any of the billboards promoting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see any advertising on the local television.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that kind of promoted the not only the event, but come watch Player of the Year, blah, blah, blah play.
For sure.
Things like that, because there's no sense of McNeese is in a league. It's McNeese and the Southland, not McNeese in the Southland.
No, I agree. I think that all those are things that, those are big picture items. For us to your point, for us to go out and recruit other members to come into our conference, all those things matter. I think as a league and as each institution, we have to do a better job of that.
It's just me and Heath today. Just me and Heath talking athletics. We'll be back after this on Poke Nation. We're back with Heath Schwer, athletic director at McNeese State, and co-host of this show. Probably better known for co-hosting this show.
For sure. Oh, 100%.
As far as I'm concerned. All right, we've talked a little bit about the league. Let's get into McNeese in specifics. The year that was, let's see some changes. Football starts off terrible. Mm-hmm. Ends up winning 3 straight games, look better every week.
Sure.
Gary Goff is starting to get his people in place. Basketball has the worst year ever, loss-wise. And now you've got the most hype you've ever done by flipping the switch there.
Yep.
What was the year then for you? Because there had to be some frustrations in it, but also you've made enough changes to where you see the end being different. What's the emotions running for you?
Like I said in the first segment, I think that we've made progress. I think that when you look holistically, obviously what Sasha did in year one, I think that, and what Gabby did in year one in tennis. I mean, those two ladies completely flipped their program. Coach Langino just, got to the regional final again. I think baseball, had a really good year. One thing I'd like to say about baseball is that, of all the sports, their clubhouse and all those things, it's not up to par.
Yeah.
From the hurricane and all that, and that needs to get fixed. We have a plan in place for that. I think that, we're going to announce the press box here very, very soon, which again is progress. I think that, women's basketball didn't take a step forward. I don't know if it was a step back, but it was definitely a step sideways.
Yeah, I'd say it was a step backward.
I think that, we made a change in men's basketball. I think that Will Wade coming here really put a shot of adrenaline into that program and to our athletic
the whole
department.
campus.
100%. So I'm excited about where we are. I think the other thing that a lot of people won't really understand is the changes we've made internally as a department. Trying to create middle management. Like when Alan Ward left, I redistributed some of that money for his salary and, wanted to add some more people to our staff. I mean, you got to remember, take our ticket office, like Logan. Okay, so Logan, in every 18 months, you were churning out of ticket people because you get worn out.
Yeah.
So Logan has to be at every single game of every single sport. You can't survive that way.
No.
So we needed to add an assistant and a GA there. We used to have one person that was over facilities and game ops.
Yeah.
Now we have 2 people, and we're just adding a GA. Same thing with the marketing department. Like, there's just so many things that we've been able to do to improve our efficiency as a department, and though that is what I'm as proud of as anything else.
Yeah, I want to say this about baseball because I was going over the numbers last night because I was doing the end of the year story, and they won 35 games. Mm-hmm. They won 34 games last year and had a great year.
Right.
He had the second best winning percentage. The perception was they were going to be so good because of last year. They didn't live up to expectations.
Right.
But they weren't a miserable year. It's just it wasn't. The ending wasn't what people had hoped and thought.
For sure.
You got to live up to your own perspective.
For sure. And when when you're used to winning at the level that they're winning, people expect that. And I know as a former coach, that's really hard to do. The thing that we have to remember about baseball, and look, no one wants to make excuses, but when you recruit to the lack of facilities that they have had in the last 18 months, it will take its toll through acquiring the talent that you need. And I talked to Coach about that, years ago after the hurricane. I wasn't worried about long term. I was worried about the next 36 months. But what he's done to continue to improve and to put a product on the field that he's done, I'm really happy with Coach. But I make no mistake about it. I said this in Will Wade's press conference. The days of us accepting mediocrity are over. The days of us saying, "Hey, well, we're just McNeese." No. We're here to win. I expect each program to be in the top 3 or 4 every single year. There's no reason why we shouldn't, especially in the way we are funded compared to our competitors. There's no reason why we shouldn't be in the top 3, 4 of on any given year, in any of our sports.
Baseball-wise, have you gotten the rights to the firehouse? I had heard that was it. It was.
Dr. Brickell's the one that's really been over, dealing with FEMA and all the rebuild. That's in discussion. I think that's going to happen. But again, it just takes time.
Yeah, it takes time.
And let's say we get the rights to that. Okay, now we have to get plans. Now we have to take the building down. Now, you're years away from hanging cleats in a new locker room, right? That's just the reality.
Well, you got a new football locker room.
100%. I'm really, really excited about that. And
we're going to take a look at it during the summer here when it's up.
And I'll tell you this too, Jim. I think one of the biggest changes we've made, and I've made, is before I got here, there was an approach that we're basically going to bleed out football.
Yeah.
We're going to prostitute men's basketball so that we can, that's just what we did. And all the other sports got a little bit better. But at what cost?
Yeah.
And so now we are going back to, any other model that's real Division I athletics, and we have to win in football and we have to win in men's basketball. You don't do that by cutting them. You have to fund them and then you win. And when those two win, we talk about football. If we're any good, we'll make $35,000 to $40,000 at the home gate of walk-ups, right? Like, you just can't generate that. With Will Wade, we have $250,000 of new revenue in the first 72 hours.
Yeah.
There's no other sports that can do that. Now, people don't like it, but that's reality.
That's the game, and that's the one that gets you on TV. That's the one that gets you noticed, and that's the game changer.
Exactly.
When we come back, we're going to finish up with Coach. We're going to talk about things like, let's go with some initials. NIL? FBS? Maybe?
Why not?
We'll talk about it after this on Poke Nation. Final segment on this season review on Poke Nation. Coach Schwer, it's been interesting. Everybody knows where we've been, though. Where are we going? Okay, you've talked NIL. You've hinted at NIL. Mm-hmm. The NIL deal, is it coming? How important is it? And I'll throw a name out for you when you're done with it.
Oh, it's coming for sure. We're committed to doing that. I think that more importantly, us being committed, our fan base and is really committed to doing it. But I just think really more important than that is how quickly it's starting to change. Where, there's a law on Governor Abbott's desk in Texas that basically is going to allow NIL to be a part of the 12th Man Foundation, right? So if all that happens, then what happens with TAF at LSU?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's so many things that
So
are
you're
changing.
talking about it could enclose into math and things like that?
I mean, it
How does
could,
play?
yeah. It's just it's just starting to evolve and change so fast. Like literally, I spend about an hour and a half a day reading as much as I can, talking to colleagues across the country, or more importantly in our region, on what they're hearing, what's happening. Because if Texas, if that law goes into place, I think I think it could change college athletics.
You're going to have to see what states step up and say,
Right.
we got to follow.
Because
Louisiana's got to follow.
Yeah, because what's really going on for Polk Nation to know is that, you know, a lot of the institutions are waiting for the NCAA to govern it. Well, they can't govern it without something through the Congress.
Yeah.
Because state law supersedes NCAA law.
Yeah, and if they try to do it beforehand, they're just going to get beaten in court.
Exactly. So it's changing so fast. But look, it is what it is. It's not going to change. It's not going to go away. But I think what institutions are finding is that, you know, you have collectives that are formed and all that. Well, you still have to raise money for facilities. You still have to raise money for corporate sponsorships, all that. Well, there's only still a finite amount of money.
Yeah.
And so how do we encompass that, I think, is what schools are trying to figure out. But it is continuing to evolve.
I'd say this, and I'll do this real quickly. Grant Rogers is a kid who's got an extra year if he wants one. He'll be in the Major League draft. He has told me he will play nowhere else but McNeese if he doesn't play pro. So it depends on what his contract is. If there's an NIL in place, you can filter him some money. Players I'm not saying him, but players like that have now a reason to come back to college instead of going into a pro game.
Sure.
That's kind of the change that you could see.
For sure.
All right, with that in mind, the press box, the naming rights, are those just as big a deals,
Yes.
or is NIL the biggest?
They're just as big. You know, I think that the new press box will be it'll be the best in FCS by a ton. It will be able, you know, when people come, they're going to go, wow. I'm excited about that announcement. Should come here within a week or so. I think it's a huge deal. And then obviously, you know, the naming rights of that is really big for this institution.
Will that be coming at the same time?
It will not. But here's the thing, Jim, and look, I don't. We talked about this off the air, but McNeese used to just give namings of buildings away.
Yes.
You know, where now that's college athletics. The naming rights of this building was $2.5 billion.
Yes.
You know, so you know, like the weight room downstairs is the Mallet Performance Center.
Yeah.
You know, the new locker room in football. I want to be able to dedicate that. You know, I'm trying to find and raise money to redo our weight room because that still got messed up from the hurricane. So there's a lot of things that we want to continue to build and continue to evolve to make us better.
I'm waiting for the Chico's bail bonds on the back of jerseys. Come on, let's go.
It's coming.
Let's go all old school. Bad News Bears. This FBS now. This is the one that everybody talks about.
Yeah.
Is it imperative you get there, or is it just you want to be in a position to make your decisions when all this happens so you can make the right decision? Do you think it's coming? You say you read a lot about things. Do you think it's coming this summer? As far as the big crackdowns and changes?
Well, I think a lot of it really has to come down, the more I read, to San Diego State, because I think it's after June 30th of this year, their exit fee leaving the Mountain West goes to almost 30-some million.
Oh.
So if they're going to make a move, they're going to make a move before June 30th, right? Once that happens, we all know, then it starts going again. I think we have to be in a position. I think we have the right guy at football in place with the new locker room, the new press box. We have the right guy in basketball. Baseball and softball are really good. Volleyball is much improved. Women's basketball has to take a step forward. But I think we have a lot of things that are in place, and you know, that's all you can do. All we can control are what we can control, and I'm trying my best to do that.
But your eyes, you look a lot better than you did 3 years ago to an FBS go.
100%. And our fundraising continues to break records.
And that's the big thing for them.
Absolutely. I mean, look.
They want a partner. They don't want somebody they have to
take care of. That's exactly right.
Well, we'll start back up next week with a guest on Poke Nation. Remember to watch Sound Off on the CBS channel, and we'll see you next week on Poke Nation.